Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhakta Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11,
Hare Krishna.
Chapter 2, Maharaj Nimi meets the Navyogendras. Text 36 onwards. So yesterday we discussed how Kavi, first of the Navyogendras, Kavir said, O King, one who accepts this process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead will never blunder on this path in this world. Even while running with eyes closed, he will never trip or fall. So further, he is saying, Kayena vacha manasendriyarva buddhyatmana vanusritas svabhava karoti yad sakalam parasmahi Narayanaeti samarpayetat. In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with his body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayana. So this is bhakti. Bhakti is not that something else we have to do, something artificial. Whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, just offer it to the Supreme. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented in this regard that a person who engages all the sensory activities of a body, mind, words, intelligence, ego, and consciousness in the service of the Supreme Lord cannot be considered to be on the same level as a karmi working for his personal sense gratification. Although apparently still a conditioned soul, one who offers the fruits of all his activities to the Lord can no longer be touched by the countless miseries that arise from the reactions to materialistic activities. So this is a difference between a devotee who's offering everything or doing everything for the pleasure of the Lord, with the compared that to karmi, who's doing everything for his own sense gratification. And nice line. Although apparently still a conditioned soul, a devotee, he might be a conditioned soul. We all are conditioned souls. We all have our conditioning, material conditioning. But he can no longer be touched by the countless miseries that arise from the reactions to materialistic activities. Because he's still offering, or at least struggling to offer. That is fine. But he's still trying. Because of enmity against the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his omnipotent authority, the conditioned living entity performs activities against the order of the Lord. Yet, self-realized souls continue to perform all types of work within this world to carry out the mission of the Supreme Lord. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those karmis who are sufficiently pious follow the example of the self-realized souls by trying to offer the fruits of their own duties at the lotus feet of the Lord. Although this is counted as karma mishra bhakti, it's not pure devotion service, it is some mixture of karma or devotional service mixed with the desire to execute fruitive activities. Such mixed devotional service is gradually transformed into pure devotional service. As the pious, fruitive workers disengage themselves step by step from the bogus philosophy of enjoyment of one's hard-earned rewards, pure devotional service rewards them with complete good fortune. So yes, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. that we give up everything and just surrender to Krishna. So in the beginning, it's karma mishra bhakti, or mixed. The bhakti is there, but mixed with some karmic desires or as a desire to execute fruitive activities. Slowly, 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 it will turn into pure devotion service. Srila Sridhar Swami has commented, although one may still be in the worldly concept of life, he should offer the fruit of his work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those with a primitive materialistic concept of the Supreme Lord consider the Lord present only in a temple or church. They make some offering to the Lord in the place of worship, but in their normal activities, they claim proprietorship, not thinking that God is present everywhere and within everyone. We have practical experience of many so-called religious men who become very offended if their children try to become servants of the Supreme Lord. They feel God should be pleased with whatever humble offering I give him. But my family and ordinary business affairs belong to me and are under my control. The perception of anything as separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his proprietorship is called Maya or illusion. So this is the real meaning of illusion, is a perception of anything as separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his proprietorship. Srila Sridhar Swami has quoted, the regulation that one should serve the Supreme Lord does not refer only to prescribed religious fasts, ceremonies, or regulations. Rather, all the activities one performs in this world according to one's personal nature should be dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to one's personal nature. Means if somebody has Brahminical qualities, he should use it for Krishna service. Somebody has Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra qualities, use it in service of Krishna. That's all he's asking. And this is what Sridhar Swami is saying. The word karoti yad yad sakalam, a similar verse is found in Bhagavad Gita, yad karoti, yad karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi, tadashi yad. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, and all the austerities that you perform should be done as an offering unto me. So Krishna is not saying do something special or separate or something extraordinary. All that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, charity, just do it for me. All the austerities you perform should be done as an offering unto me. Of course, this is, first he says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, that do it with love for me. But if you cannot do that, at least whatever you do, whatever you eat, do it as an offering to me. Then you eat. Eat prashadam. First condition is offer it. Offer everything. Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam with love. But if you cannot do that, at least do this much. The objection may be raised since our ordinary activities are performed with the material body and material mind, not by the spirit soul. How can such activities be offered to the Supreme Lord, who is completely transcendental to the material world? How can such activities be considered spiritual? In answer to this, it is stated in the Vishnu Puran, Varnashram Acharvata. One who wants to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, must accept the system of Varnashram Dharma and worship the Lord through the execution of his prescribed duties. So, yes, Varnashram system, wonderful system accepted by the Lord, but Bhakti obviously goes beyond that, but at least we start with that. That's the beginning stages. In Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord has personally taken credit for establishing the system of Varnashram Dharma. Therefore, if one offers his work within the Varnashram Dharma system to the Supreme Lord, such work is counted as devotional service. Not pure devotional service, but it is still devotional service. According to one's swabhava or nature, one may work as an intellectual or priest, as an administrator or military man, as an agriculturalist or mercantile man, or as a laborer or craftsman. And while working, everyone should meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking yet sakalam parasmai naranaya. I am working for the Supreme Lord. Whatever result comes from my work, I shall accept the bare minimum for my personal maintenance, and the rest I shall offer for the glorification of Lord Narayana. So anybody and everybody can do this. Even if we say, okay, here it is said, I shall accept the bare minimum. Okay, we accept the most of it. But first thing is, whatever responsibilities as a job or business is given to me by Krishna. The strength, the intelligence, all the capabilities I have is given to me, are given to me by Krishna to perform this job or business. And as a token of my appreciation, out of gratefulness, even if there's no love, out of gratefulness, I should offer something, whatever I earn out of with that, something for the service of Krishna. That is the beginning stage. Srila Jiva Goswami has pointed out, one cannot offer dushkarma or sinful, wicked activities to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The four pillars of sinful life are illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Such activities are never accepted as offerings to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example may be given that although in a free society, each person is allowed to choose his own occupation, even a democratic government will not allow a citizen to choose the occupation of thief or murderer. In the same way, according to the laws of God, one is invited to work according to his own nature in the Varnashram system, but one is forbidden to adopt a criminal life of sinful activities, violating the laws of God. And that is where the judicial system is there. So yes, we do work for Krishna, but we don't do these sinful activities and think we are serving Krishna. Krishna, however, he can accept anybody's service. But this is a principle. Exceptions are always there. Just like there was this Kasai, a butcher, Sadhana Kasai. And somehow he found the Shaligram Shila. And he was using that Shaligram Shila to weigh the meat. So he would put Shaligram Shila on one side of the balance, and on the other side it's a meat, and he would sell that. So once some Brahman was walking by and he saw Shaligram Shila, and he chastised, Sadhana, what are you doing? This is pap. This is really sinful. You're using Shaligram Shila to measure meat, and then you're selling that meat? So Sadhana Kasai, he got very ashamed. He said, what to do? So Brahman said, give me the Shaligram Shila. I'll worship him properly, and then you can use whatever measuring weight you want to use. So Brahman took that Shaligram Shila home, and he bathed him, and he started worshipping. But the Lord came to the Brahman in his dream at night, and he said, take me back to Sadhana Kasai. Brahman said, why? He was doing very sinful activity by using you as a measuring weight. The Lord said, because he used to do everything with love. He used to take care of me with love. He would Sing for me with love. Okay, so he was using me as a measuring weight for me. No problem. But I want to go back. Take me back. So yes, exceptions are there, but we are not at that level of exception. We cannot imitate Sadhana Kasai. We only appreciate his bhakti and pray that maybe someday in one of these lifetimes we can achieve that kind of bhakti. But right now we got to follow everything. That's all. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given a nice description of how one should offer one's ordinary activities to the Supreme Lord. He says that an ordinary sense gratifier begins his activities in the morning by passing stool and urine, cleaning his mouth, brushing his teeth, bathing, meeting his friends and family members, and discussing with them the day's business, what he's going to do the rest of the day. In this way, one has so many activities during the day, and a sense gratifier executes all these activities for his personal, material enjoyment. And this is the whole impetus for doing any work. A karmi, on the other hand, working under the jurisdiction of Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, will perform the same activities for the pleasure of the demigods and his forefathers. Thus, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, a devotee of the Supreme Lord Narayan should similarly perform all of his daily activities for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. In this way, everything we do throughout the day will become Bhakti Anga, or a supplementary aspect of our devotion service to Krishna. So for that, that's why the scriptures are there to tell us how we can remember Krishna throughout the day. As Rupa Goswami says, there are only two rules. Every other rule is like a kinkar, servant in front of these two rules. And the two rules, the cardinal principle for the devotees is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. That's it. So how to remember Krishna? Now that is the question. So we can, while we are working, we can chant, we can listen to Kirtan, we can chant, we can listen to classes. There's so many classes on the net available. We can, and that is why Krishna also says, I am the light of sun and moon. So whenever we see sunlight or moonlight, automatically mind should go towards Krishna. And now, like, there could be paintings of Krishna, there could be wallpaper of Krishna on our mobile or the laptop, whatever we do. So many ways to remember Krishna. And remember Krishna favorably. That is bhakti. And never forget Krishna. Never forget Krishna means if we get into some trouble or some not so favorable situation, we should not forget Krishna in that place. That is important. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Even if we are in an unfavorable situation, thought should be Krishna. My Krishna has put me in this situation, and my Krishna does not want anything bad for me. He will always protect me, and he cannot want anything bad for me to happen. So whatever is happening, Krishna has put me, but to teach me some lesson, to take away my so many sinful reactions from my karmic bank balance. And so I surrender, Krishna, do whatever you want. I'm yours. Not that when something negative happens and first thing we forget Krishna. And that generally it happens. But that is why we have to really strengthen, fortify our bhakti, our sadhana, our reading of Prabhupada's books. It should be understood that as long as one identifies oneself in terms of the Varnashram Dharma system, rather than as part and parcel of Krishna, one is still on the platform of Ahankar or false ego, because the Varnashram system is designed according to the modes of nature acquired by the living entity through this material body. But the Acharyas have emphasized in their commentaries on this verse that such a false ego, by which one identifies oneself as Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and so on, should also be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, this is Ahankar, because soul is not Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sannyasi, Brahma, Grasta, Vanprasthiya, Brahmachari. Soul has nothing to do with all this. These are only the material designations given to our body according to whatever qualities we have attained at the time of birth. We can change that in this birth, or at least next birth, definitely we can change it. But, okay, so whatever qualities we have attained, although it is, this body is material, we act accordingly, but at the same time, we remember Krishna. At the same time, we serve Krishna. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, when one becomes very much attracted to hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord, and not merely offering him the fruits of one's work, one has attained the stage called Swarupa Siddha Bhakti, or the stage in which actual devotion becomes visible. Example may be given that although any good citizen will pay his taxes to the government, he may not necessarily love the government or its leaders. Similarly, a pious living entity can understand that he is working under the laws of God, and therefore in accordance with Vedic injunctions or injunctions of other scriptures, he offers a portion of his assets to the Supreme Lord in religious ceremonies. But when such a pious person actually becomes attached to chanting and hearing about the personal qualities of the Lord, and when love becomes visible, he is considered to be reaching the mature stage of life. So same activities, hearing, chanting, or service, or charity, but when starts doing that instead of as a duty, but out of love, that means we are making progress. In the beginning stages is, I have to do it. Then I want to do it. Then I like to do it. Then I love to do it. And then I cannot live without doing it. Slowly, 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 we are making progress. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami has quoted several verses that very nicely show the development of love for Godhead. So he has written, "May the merciful Lord show mercy on me by demonstrating the misery created by sinful desires. Unintelligent persons have unflinching affection for the objects of sense gratification. Similarly, may I always remember you so that the same attachment applied to you never leaves my heart. As the mind of young girls take pleasure in thinking of a young boy, and those of young boys take pleasure in thinking of a young girl, may my mind take pleasure in you, O Lord. Whatever attraction I have for pious or sinful activities, let that attraction be wholeheartedly invested in you." So this is the prayer of a devotee, of a really advanced devotee. Now, next verse. Very, very, very important verse. Very important instruction. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshita syat ishadapitasya viparyayo smriti tan maya yato buddha abhajetam bhaktya ekya isham guru devata atma. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as a material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. Thus, bewildering, fearful condition is affected by the potency for illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotion service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. So Maya, because of Maya, this fear is always there in our heart. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, the objection may be raised that since fear is caused by ignorance, it can be dispelled by knowledge, and there is no need to worship the Supreme Lord. The living entity falsely identifies with this material body, family, society, and so on, and he simply has to give up this false identification. Then what will Maya be able to do? So Srila Swami is answering this question. He says, this Maya is just not some ordinary energy. Devi hiesha gunamai mam maya dratyaya. It doesn't just go away if somebody tells me I'm not this body and I have no connection with family, society, this is all illusion. I have the knowledge, but it doesn't just go away. This is all theoretical knowledge right now. Jivera Swarubhai Krishnera Nityadas. Yeah, I've heard it many times. I have memorized the verse. I can preach that so. I can preach for hours on this verse, but have I realized it? Have I practically applied it? So just knowledge doesn't do anything. That's why Sridhar Swami is quoting this. Mame viye prapadyante. We have to surrender. Take shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. Then Maya me tam tarantite. This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult. And difficult is just a very simple word they have used to overcome. It's not just difficult. Duratyaya. Very, very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So this surrender part is there, not just the knowledge. The living entity called Jiv Tattva is one of the potencies of the Supreme Lord, but the constitutional position of the living entity is tatastha or marginal. Being minute, every living entity is eternally dependent upon the Supreme Living Entity, Krishna. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. Nityo Nityanam, Chetna Chetana. Among all the eternally conscious beings, there is one supreme eternal living being who is supplying the needs of all the innumerable others. See, this is how Krishna has designed everything. And it's an eternal design. It's not like earlier it was different and now it is different and future something else will come. No, it's eternally the same. We are infinitesimal living beings. Souls are that. And we are Tatastha Shakti. Means we have an option to be under Yogamaya or Mahamaya. If we go under Mahamaya, we are going to suffer. If we come under Yogamaya, we're going to enjoy. And coming under Yogamaya is by doing bhakti, by surrendering unto Krishna. Yes, Krishna, please take me back. Take me out of this illusion of illusory ocean of happiness of this Mahamaya. Please take me out of here. Krishna's Kaviraj has stated, Ekela Ishvara Krishna Arsabhritya. Krishna is the only independent controller. All other living entities depend upon him. Just as a finger is part and parcel of the body and therefore must always be engaged in bodily service, we as parts and parcels of Krishna have the eternal duty of engaging in the unalloyed service of the Lord. Unalloyed means pure, no tinge of any mixture of anything. The potency of the Lord that enlightens us in the Lord's service is called Chit Shakti. He has three Shaktis, right? In spiritual world also he has three, Sat, Chit and Ananda. So the knowledge comes from Chit Shakti. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that when the living entity develops a spirit of independence, he is forced to come to the material world, where he enters into various types of petty and undesirable behavior that create a fearful situation for him. The Bahiranga Shakti, the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord, covers all trace of the Chit Shakti and imposes one material body after another upon the living entity for his gross sinful enjoyment. As further punishment, the living entity who has given up his loving relationship with Krishna loses all power to perceive the eternal blissful form of the Supreme Lord, who is his actual shelter. So then, once Maya takes over, but Maya doesn't take over out of its own, because we desire like that. When, as it is said, when the living entity develops a spirit of independence, he is forced to come to the material world. Forced. Because we develop the desire of independence. And then we go through all this cycle. And then we forget Krishna, lose all power to perceive the eternal blissful form of the Supreme Lord, who is his actual shelter. Instead, the living entity becomes attached to many temporary, phantasmagorical forms, such as his personal body, the bodies of his family members and friends, his nation, his city, with its buildings and cars and innumerable types of ephemeral material scenery, ephemeral, which is very, very temporary, we get attached. In such a state of gross ignorance, the idea of returning to one's original identity no longer even crosses the mind of that conditioned, bound up, entangled living entity. By the laws of God, the three modes of material nature are constantly in conflict. This conflict is described in many places in Bhagavatam as Guna Vyatikaram. When the living entity is bewildered by the interactions of the modes of material nature, he comes to the conclusion of relativity and assumes that God and worship of God are simply byproducts of the relative, contradictory interactions of nature's modes. In the name of anthropological, sociological, psychological perspective, the living entity falls deeper and deeper into the darkness of materialistic ignorance, dedicating himself to mundane piety, economic development, sense gratification, or speculation, goes through all this nonsense, so-called philosophies. The illusory potency of the Supreme Lord is Dhrutyaya. It is impossible to escape without the direct mercy of Krishna. It's not that we can escape it by knowing, oh yes, Maya is Dhrutyaya, I am in Maya, and that's it. Maya is gone. No, it's very much there. Even in the beginning stages of devotion service, somebody is trying, now what to speak of beginning? Maya is always testing. But when we are trying to surrender, Maya really captures us more and more to make sure we are eligible to take shelter of Krishna. And we think, oh, just by understanding this is all Maya, I'm going to get away from it. The example may be given that when the sun is covered by clouds, no man-made apparatus can remove them from the sky. But the sun itself, which created the clouds, can immediately burn away the cloudy covering, and reveal itself. So it can vaporize all the water that is there and remove the clouds. Similarly, when we become covered by the illusory potency of the Lord, we identify with our temporary material body, and thus we are always in fear and anxiety. But when we surrender to the Lord Himself, He can immediately free us from this illusion. This material world is padam padam yata vipadam. It is dangerous at every step. When a living entity understands that he is not the material body, but an eternal servant of God, his fear is vanquished. As stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in this Bhagavad Dharma, devotees have no need to fear the bondage of material existence. That fear goes away of its own accord for one who engages in devotion service. So much so that a devotee doesn't even care if he gets a new material body or not. He doesn't care. All he cares for, oh my Lord, please keep me in your devotion service. Please keep me in the association of devotees. That's all. You keep on giving me bodies after bodies. I don't care. And as we studied in the story of Maharaj Chitraketu, when afterwards he became Vritrasura, and Chitraketu, when he was cursed by Mother Parvati, Lord Shiva was laughing. He said, devotees, they're not afraid. Even if they have to go to hell, if they take birth in hell, they're not afraid. Yeah, they're devotees. They have full faith in Krishna. So there is no fear. But those in the material world, with the material conception of life, they're always afraid. It is important to make clear that bhayam or fear cannot ultimately be vanquished simply by impersonal self-realization that I am spirit soul. It doesn't go away. One has to engage in the service. One has to engage in the activities of the spirit soul, which is devotion service. The living entity must find a superior shelter on the spiritual platform. Otherwise, he will come back to the fearful situation of material existence. Although one may, with great labor and effort, struggle up to the Brahman platform, if he does not find a suitable shelter, he will come back to the material platform. His so-called liberation is vimuktaman, or liberation by imagination. So even that liberation is not permanent. The living entity is by nature pleasure seeking. Now we are suffering because we are falsely seeking pleasure on the material platform, and as a result, we are becoming entangled in the painful complexities of material existence. But if we try to give up the pleasure-seeking propensity altogether, we shall eventually become frustrated and return to the platform of material pleasure-seeking. Although there is eternal existence on the Brahman platform of impersonal realization, there is no ananda, the real ananda, the bliss that we're looking for. It's not there in Brahm Jyoti. Variety is the mother of enjoyment. In the Vaikuntha planets, there is actual spiritual ananda. Krishna is there in his ecstatic spiritual form, surrounded by his blissful associates, all of them eternally full of bliss and knowledge. They have nothing to do with material existence. In the spiritual planets, even the scenery and birds and animals are fully conscious of Krishna and are absorbed in transcendental bliss. One who goes to the blissful spiritual planet of Krishna will be fully satisfied and never come back to the material platform. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said, only the bhakta actually becomes free from fear. And this is only possible when we follow the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, Guru Devata Atma. The bona fide spiritual master is completely free from envy of other living entities, and therefore he freely distributes knowledge of devotion service to the Supreme Personality of God. Envy of other living entities. So one who is on the spiritual platform, he can never be envious of any materialistic person or anybody, even spiritually realized person. He cannot be envious. Envy starts happening when we meet somebody and we see him or her, and in some way or other, everybody could be more qualified than us or has something more than us, whether it is knowledge or beauty or money or lineage or anything, bodily strength, any other capability he or she might have, we become envious of that person. So actually enviousness means that we are thinking why this person has this quality and why I don't have. Means this person has, and then if he has some knowledge, okay, Krishna has given him this quality, so maybe Krishna doesn't have proper intelligence, why he gave him this quality, why he did not give me that quality. So ultimately it's Krishna's fault. Krishna doesn't know what he is doing. But one who is spiritually realized, and here it is a bona fide spiritual master, completely free of envy. He cannot be envious. Because one who is devoted to the Lord, surrendered to the Lord, how I can caution Krishna's decision of giving something to somebody? Cannot caution. I should be happy. Spiritual persons are always happy that other person has so many good qualities. Krishna has really bestowed his mercy. Krishna, I pray to Krishna, please give me your mercy also. Not out of envy of the other person, but so that I can serve Krishna also properly. A spiritually advanced person is so humble, he doesn't think he has any qualities. He says, I don't have any qualities. Srimati Radharani, when she sees some devotee serving Krishna, she always thinks, oh, he's serving Krishna so nicely. Krishna, please get him back to the spiritual world so he can serve you nicely over there. I cannot serve you the way he is serving or she is serving. That is Radharani's mood. And obviously, our mood is completely opposite. When the living entities who are inimical to the service of the Lord somehow hear this knowledge submissively, they become free from the illusory potency of the Lord, which has covered them and thrown them into various miserable species of life. So by the mercy of spiritual master, the faithful disciple gradually realizes the transcendental position of Lord Narayan, who is served with great awe and reverence by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. As a disciple's transcendental knowledge gradually increases, even the Parameshwarya or supreme opulence of the Lord of Vaikuntha becomes pale in the light of the beauty of Govinda or Krishna. And finally, Lord Krishna himself, by his mercy, the purified living entity is given the unique privilege of participating directly in the devotion service of Krishna, who becomes his only object and shelter. And for Guru, it is in the shloka, Guru Devata Atma. He should accept the bona fide spiritual master as his worshipable deity. Of course, we can offer Aarti to Prabhupada and to Guru. Worshipable deity means dealing in the most respectful manner. And as his avatar, as his Atma, as his very life and soul. Physically also, but as a matter of instructions, that his instructions are my life and soul. He has given whatever instructions, and I'll try to follow them to the core. So, Vani and Vapu. Vapu means the body or the physical form of Guru. Vani means his instructions. Vapu is important, yes, but Vani is more important. Those instructions, like we heard when Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, first time it was 100 years ago, 1922. And Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave him the instructions right away. Prabhupada had not even properly gotten up after paying obeisances to speak of taking shelter. But Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj recognized him. 11 years later, 1933, Prabhupada got initiated by Maharaj. 11 years after their first meeting. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj left his body. And then 1965, when Prabhupada could manage to come to America to carry out the order of his spiritual master. But the orders remained with him as his very life and soul. So Prabhupada has really set an example that how we can follow his instructions and how to take his instructions as our life and soul. And then his mercy will always be there for us. So wonderful shlokas and wonderful, wonderful commentaries. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
प्रभुजी ये मेरा पर्सनल प्रॉब्लम है, मगर ये सबके साथ हो सकता है. ये प्रॉब्लम किसी के साथ भी हो सकता है, इसलिए मैं डिस्कस करना चाहती हूँ.
हाँ बताइए.
पहली बार जब से मेरी इनिशिएशन हुई है, तब से पहली बार मैं कृष्ण से नाराज हूँ, जिसके आप बहुत प्यार करते हैं और उसे नाराज हो जाते हैं और सब कुछ छोड़ देते हैं. नहीं, मुझे नहीं करनी पूजा, मुझे चैंटिंग भी नहीं करनी, मगर he is always there at the back of your mind. और फिर इरिटेशन में समझ नहीं आ रहा है मेरे को क्या हो रहा है. कुछ सर्कमस्टेंसेस ऐसे हो गए हैं जिसके कारण मुझे ये हो रहा है. मैं कैसे इससे डील करूं? आप समझ पा रहे हैं ना मेरा क्वेश्चन क्या है?
See, yeah, I mean, bodily problems will be there.
You know, but I'm annoyed with him. मैं गुस्सा आ रहा है. ऐसे क्यों कर रहे हो तुम मेरे साथ? मैं पूजा क्यों नहीं कर रही हूँ? मैं चैंटिंग क्यों नहीं कर रही हूँ? क्यों ऐसा हो रहा है मेरे साथ में?
कोई नहीं, बॉडली प्रॉब्लम्स जो हैं तो है ही है. कोई नहीं, करते रहो चैंटिंग, दैट्स ऑल. लड़ाई करनी है वो भी करते रहो उसके साथ. दैट्स बिटवीन यू एंड हिम.
जिसे प्यार करते हैं ना, लड़ाई भी वैसी किस्म की हो रही है मेरे को उनके साथ में. उनको तो मैं चांटा भी मारती हूँ. मैं कहती हूँ ऐसे. और जबकि मैं कोविड में हॉस्पिटल में सब कुछ करती थी, आजकल क्या हो रहा है मेरे साथ मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रहा. कुछ ऐसे सर्कमस्टेंसेस इतने स्ट्रांग हो गए मेरे साथ में कि मैं ये सब कुछ कर नहीं पा रही हूँ. दिमाग में वही फंस रहा है कि ये क्यों हो रहा है मेरे साथ, क्या करूं?
मेरे पास तो एक ही सोल्यूशन है, चैंट. That's all. सब कुछ तो भगवान ने दिया है हरि नाम में, सब कुछ तो है।
हाँ
कोई नहीं, आप चैंटिंग मशीन भी लगा के रखो, प्रभुपाद की चैंटिंग सुनते रहो और साथ साथ चैंटिंग करते रहो बस।
झूठी मूठी चैंटिंग कर,
जैसे भी चैंटिंग इज
चैंटिंग भी करूं, गुस्सा भी करूं, ये सब कुछ करूं।
वो आपके और कृष्णा के बीच का मैं कुछ नहीं कहूंगा, तो चैंटिंग करते रहो बस, बाकी जो करना करो।
ये कॉमन प्रॉब्लम होती है कि मेरे साथ ही हुए, एबनॉर्मल प्रॉब्लम है मेरी।
कॉमन प्रॉब्लम है माता जी, मेरे साथ भी हो रहा है और
एवरीबॉडी गोस थ्रू दैट।
तब से हो रहा है जब से गड़बड़ हुई है। हो रहा है माता जी, बहुत गुस्सा भी आता है, सब कुछ होता है, रोते भी हैं, क्या करें।
चलो जो भी बता रहे हो आप करूंगी मैं।
यस, चैंटिंग तो नहीं छोड़िए, बस चैंटिंग करते रहिए।
चैंटिंग छोड़ नहीं रही हूँ, मगर वो चैंटिंग में जैसे मैं अपने आपको मतलब चैंटिंग वो तो फर्स्ट थिंग इन द मॉर्निंग कि जो मैं छोड़ भी नहीं सकती थी कभी। अब मेरा दिल ही नहीं रखता है चैंटिंग करूं, तो उस मन से नहीं कर पा रही हूँ ना।
That's okay. That's still okay, but keep on doing it. That's all.
चलो ठीक है। आप
ये मटेरियल अप्स एंड डाउन्स तो आते रहेंगे, उसका तो कोई सोल्यूशन नहीं है।
ठीक है प्रभु जी, वैसे ही करूंगी, लड़ाई भी
ओके,
करूंगी।
या वो भी करो, बिल्कुल करो, उसको अच्छा अच्छा खिला बना के भी खिलाओ, बट चैंटिंग करते रहो।
थैंक यू।
Thank you, Mata. Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Krishna, Jai Shri